People say that graphics aren't important, but you can't deny that it is one of the key factors that give the first big impression of the game when people see the screenshots or video footage of the game. For example, if you saw a screenshot of the game that was poorly drawn with MS Paint or organized from free stock assets, you probably speculate that the developer put the bug all in terms of the effort they put into it to make the game worth playing. So, let's talk about my game, the CryBullets graphic, and how I choose the art style, and how I express the uniqueness in terms of the visual of the game. I choose this topic to talk about in this series first, because A, my other key elements of the game, like the core gameplay loop or unique gameplay mechanics, have room to polish. And B, while the quality of sprites in the game could be improved over time, art style won't change that much in progress through the development. And C is a programming language invented in 1972. But I digress. There are multiple styles in terms of visuals in indie games developed by small teams or individuals. The most common style is pixel 2D art style, because it requires the least amount of the effort to make it look anywhere decent. I don't think it's a bad thing, because as less effort goes into the graphics, more and more could go to the better gameplay design. The other popular style is a hand-drawn art styles. Notable examples are like Spiritfarer, Castle Clashers, and Cuphead. And there's a game that combines both pixel art and hand-drawn art. Omori is one of the popular examples of that, and I think the latter method is much more common, because there's a more additional effort is required than pixel art does. In some cases, it needs to scale those sprites depending on the game world, and sometimes could affect the performance as well, especially VRAM on GPU. And more recently, compared to previously mentioned methods, games with low poly 3D models are becoming common in indie spaces. For example, Confront VR, Dusk, and Neon Rain. This could apply to the same reason why pixel art is popular. It's easier to reach the quality of not bad. And I think I covered most of the popular styles, in indie games at least. It's not a significant number, but there's some cel-shaded one and a realistic graphic one. But both of them can be difficult to make, especially for small independent teams or solo developers like me. Anyway, in the CryBullets, I used a hand-drawn art styles with 3D environments. Firstly, I want to make my game stand out in this world of indie games where the majority of it is drawn with a pixel art. Secondly, I really can be bothered with understanding how to use Blender to do low poly 3D styles. Thirdly, I wanted to come with a nut to convince my pen tablet is a bloody waste of money. So I decided art style. There are still some problems. As I previously mentioned, it takes a lot of time to draw each sprite, so I had to make some corner cuts to save time. As a great man said, work smarter, not harder. I have to do not only drawing, but some coding, audio design, animations, and all other busy work to make my game functional. For example, take a look at these web of view model sprites. Then you may notice that this globe is weirdly detailed. To tell the truth, I used an actual globe photo instead of drawing it by myself. I'm not very good as far as an artist goes. When I try to draw hands, it usually ends up looking like a spaghetti. In the other corner cut example is this female mage and male soldier for enemies. If you look at them carefully, you'll notice that the hands are reused. But even with this and all about the corner cuts, it still takes a lot of bloody time to draw. And you may thought, what about AI to save time? 3 problem viewers. First, currently it has multiple issues of copyrights. Second, it usually ends up very bland and soulless looking. Third, I don't know how to use that stuff! Like, I tried to learn Stable Diffusion on my PC and I don't know how to use the thing, so I stuck with drawing. Like a caveman. Grrr. Since it's a cutting-edge technique, it's better to learn for sure, but I think it's not too late to wait for tech to get stable, since its cutting edge has the potential to stab me like a knife. Still, I had to learn Blender to make the map slowly look nicer. All of those lanterns and trees, probably I should learn a lot more to Blender to improve all of those 3D models look, but most of the time I had to deal with the drawing, and I spent majority of the development time drawing all of those sprites. I think it's good timing to investigate the technical side of stuff. I draw all of those enemy sprites on 4K resolution, but if the game knows all of those, the file size of the game will be unreasonably big and lead to experience some stutters for loading all of those sprites. So I had to crush down all of those sprites resolution to 20% of the 4K, 760 to 700. So the file size can be reasonable and performance can stay steady. And you may think, why don't you draw them by that resolution? Isn't it waste of time to change that resolution of the image every time? Well, not at all. Have you ever heard of downsampling? Oh yes, I'm a tech nerd who knows DLSS, FSR, PBR, and many other words with 3 big letters related to tech, so I can bore another person when I'm talking. Haha. Anyway, downsampling is, in short, it's a technique that prepares the image on much higher resolution, often the resolution higher than the monitor resolution, then display it on much lower resolution, and the result is a jaggedless, smooth edges. So, as far as I can tell with the current build of the game, how do I feel about all of those? The answer from me is yes. On the one hand, yes, my game's look is distinguishably different enough from other games' visuals, and yeah, I succeeded in that term. On the other hand, I probably should spend more time on the core gameplay loops design first, since I went to make my game. Another setting point is that unique gameplay uses gun with special abilities and gun and enemies elements. Considering Hi-Fi Rush and Portal make core gameplay loop first, then unique assets. Well, for my excuse, I had to make all of those assets first, so I had to get some idea how the game's visual gonna look like, and I don't wanna waste time making placeholder assets. But the most ironic thing about all of this is that later, I had to redraw several assets of the enemies and guns, so yeah, I ended up wasting some time with ugly assets. That's all with today's dev diary, dev memo, dev essay, or whatever you want to call it. This is the first time I'm writing a script for a video with 1,000+ words, and it's not even my mother tongue language. I'm Japanese, by the way. Anyway, if you are interested in my game project, you know the drill. Leave a like, subscribe, join the Discord, and blah 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 blah.